Hey Woodside students, this is Pastor Evan here, and I'm excited to continue our study in the book of James. Last time we looked at James chapter 1, verses 1 through 11, talking about how our trials should be a joy, that we can find joy in trials because God is testing us. And so as we continue through the book of James, we're going to be in James chapter 12, James chapter 1, verse 12, through 18. And I just want to read that for us, and then we'll talk a little bit about different things that we see through this passage. So join with me as we read James chapter 1, verses 12 through 18. It says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desires. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers, for every good and perfect gift is from above, coming from down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Of this he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures." And so as we jump in and we see, the first thing that we see is that we need to be steadfast under trial. That blessed is the man who's steadfast under trial. And what steadfast means, it means to have an unwavering, firm faith. It's meaning that we should have a firm faith, a steadfast faith, being firm during our trial. And he talks about the fact that when we're firm under trial, that we are being tested, and when we testing, that we will receive the crown of life for those that love God. And so we see that even in the midst of our trials, even in the midst of our situation, that we need to continue to be firm and unwavering. And I'm reminded of the parable of the sower in the book of Matthew. It talks about a bunch of seeds, and if you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. Parable of the sower in Matthew. But as he continues, he talks about a seed that falls along a rocky soil. And what that rocky soil represents is that it's those that have heard God's word, that are growing in their faith, but when hard times come, they completely give up. And they don't grow. They completely give up, and they cease to grow. And so it's reminding me the fact that when we're in trials, when we're in testing, we need to remind ourselves that God is testing our faith. And through that faith, as we saw last time, is that faith is actually building up our faith. The test is building up our faith. But I think also as James continues in this passage, he talks about the aspect of temptation. Because sometimes we feel like during trials or during tough situations that we're being tempted more to sin. We're being tempted to do what's wrong in the midst of a hard time. And so he talks about the fact that this temptation isn't coming from God. God is testing us and testing our faith, but the temptation to sin, the temptation to do what's wrong, is not from God. And he continues to say that in the next couple of verses. Because God is holy and perfect, and he cannot tempt, and he cannot be tempted, or he cannot sin. We saw that Jesus was tempted, but he did not sin. And so we need to continue to remember that our temptations are coming from our own desires, our sinful desire to disobey God. And we need to continually fight against temptation in order that we do not sin. Because then we're reminded again in verses 16 on is that God is bringing good, that everything that comes from God is perfect and it's good and it's perfecting us. So even the trials, even the situations that he's putting us in currently, and even the trials that you will face later on in life, that he is using that for our good, and it's perfecting us, and it's making us more like him, and it's strengthening our faith. And so I love this passage. I love the fact that we need to continue to be steadfast amidst the trials, be firm in our faith in the midst of our trials. And as we continue on in the next couple of weeks, we will see what that looks like. How do we strengthen our faith? How do we walk in our faith? I love you guys. We're excited to be able to dive into God's Word together. Share this with friends and family as we work our way through the book of James. We'll see you guys soon.